Hi, welcome to a very long video. This is an interview that I did on my Twitch stream with Tarn Adams, aka Toady1, co-founder of Bay12 Games and programmer on Dwarf Fortress. There's a lot of discussion about the Steam version, and towards the middle we talk a little bit about Dwarven psychology, and then towards the end there's a little bit of other things, as well as an appearance of Scamps, and we talk about his new laptop. Scamps' laptop, obviously. Tarn's cat. If you would like to see the previous interview I did with him back in June, you can find that down in the description. And I hope you enjoy the interview. There's a little bit of audio trouble towards the beginning, but we sort that out pretty quickly. So hopefully you enjoy the whole interview. And I'll see you at the end, hopefully. Hello, we are back. So it's been a couple of months. I guess we should just start this off with... Hi, how are you doing today? How's your beginning of October going?
Well, that's good so far because I've been sleeping through October so far. I got up just an hour ago after the installation. Well, it's not. It's the contractor, the apartment people sent out to fix the installation has been drilling next to my head for a couple days and running a pipe through here, and apparently my deck, which I never go out on, it's like this little balcony thing, just one of those things where you have a little place to stand outside on a multi-level apartment. I don't go out there, and apparently it's rotting.
Oh, no.
And the contractor almost fell through, and so that somebody is going to do something about that maybe at some point. But yeah, that was a trip, and the smoke was right before that because the contractor had been out like a week before that and canceled due to weather or whatever after drilling near my head for a day. And the smoke, I couldn't really sleep either. So I slept in late, but I had a great night's sleep. So maybe that bodes well for the rest of October.
Well, October is one of my favorite months of the year, as it has Halloween towards the end of it, which in my opinion is the best season. But I have a rather long list of questions that I trimmed down to a less long list of questions. I think maybe just like opening it up in a Google Doc format was a bad idea because people just like inputted like 15 questions each or something. But I've trimmed it down and it's reasonable, I swear. And so I figured we'd start off with something very general, which was actually asked a couple of times by various individuals, which is like, who is working on the Steam version of Dwarf Fortress and how is Kitfox involved?
Okay, so yeah, so the two artists are Meth from the Masterwork mod and Mike Mayday who does a tile set, and Kitfox handled the paperwork and contracted them to work on the project. It's kind of the main reason I got involved with Kitfox to begin with, is because I don't know how to do employment paperwork and that kind of thing. So yeah, we have a little forum where we talk to each other and show each other. No, they draw pictures. I don't. Well, I do draw my placeholders. That's horrifying. But so that, yeah, we just have I work with them directly there, so those are the two main people working on the project. There's also Kitfox got a musician, Dabu, to cook up some tracks and some stingers, which are little sounds that pop up when there's big announcements like a beast invasion and so forth. And that's another person. Then the Kitfox, kind of more their direct involvement of Kitfox employees is, for instance, Victoria handles is their communications director, and she handles kind of getting some of the events together, moderating their Discord and the Steam forums, and just generally helping out with things like that. And Tanya and I discussed things like, should we have a video, or do you want to do, etc. with this event, or That kind of thing. And I'm probably missing something, but that I don't know if people had specific concerns, but that's kind of it, I think.
I think generally it's just a general question of like, who is Kitfox? Because I know that there are people that are still kind of discovering Dwarf Fortress almost every day. Like I know I see a lot of faces pop into the chats on a daily basis practically that are like, yeah, I heard about this game last week because somebody told me about it. And it's coming to Steam apparently. Wait, it's already out and stuff like that. So you get kind of people from all angles.
Yeah, I mean they're their own game company, right? I mean they have I think I don't know any of the numbers, but I'm assuming Moon Hunters was the game they released that most people would have known about if they had heard of them. Of course, there's a quite a bit of buzz around Boyfriend Dungeon, which is one of their upcoming games, but they've also kind of been on a publishing kind of rampage. They published Six Ages, which was the sequel to Kingdom of Dragon Pass, which is kind of this much older game, but it suddenly had a sequel, which is cool. And they're doing. They just published that. I mean, the paparazzi came out of nowhere. People like taking pictures of dogs. Why wouldn't you want to take pictures of dogs? People do that all the time, right? Post pictures of dogs.
I'm waiting for the cat-related sequel.
Yeah, I think that I mean could happen. I mean, it's everybody's obligation to make paparazzi a hit, and then maybe you get the cat sequel. But yeah, so there's that. I mean, they just kind of have their own company going on. They're not like just a publisher, or however people think about publishing, right? This is I mean, Tanya is someone I knew well before she got into publishing. And it's she's an indie game dev. She does indie game stuff, and she'd been working in the game industry for, God, I don't know, was it 20 years yet? I mean, she's been working in for a long time. She was on like one of I don't remember the names of all the Conan games. It was like Age of Conan or something, and just onward from there. And that was quite a long time ago.
So kind of the first question I have here about the Steam edition, because they kind of go all over the place, so we'll see kind of how this goes. But the first one is there are occasionally things referenced in the game that don't exist, alchemy, for example. And then they kind of go on to essentially ask, are some of these extra items and skills that have no current use going to be trimmed down or maybe explained a little bit better as having no practical use in the Steam version? Or is this just something that's going to continue kind of being a quirk of Dwarf Fortress?
It's going to be impossible to clear out everything like that. But I mean, I don't even remember where alchemy shows up. If it's in a skill list somewhere, or like if if you can choose it for your starting dwarves, or if you can choose it in adventure mode or something.
You can choose it as a skill, and it's also listed under like skills in the jobs list if you're setting jobs for your dwarves.
Yeah, because I don't know what that was originally for. If we were planning to do something with all the various juices that were extractable from creatures before we just made the soap maker's workshop, which is kind of what happened to alchemy. I think it turned into soap. But yeah. So I mean, yeah. No, I don't know that I'm going to catch everything like that. I mean, certainly if people point them out, they're reasonable to get rid of, because what I expect to happen, and that doesn't mean that we're never doing anything like that. What it means is that the anything that happens with that is, of course, going to be looped into the myth magic stuff now, and I expect that there will be no shortage of skills for people to play with. So if there's a little cleaning, I wouldn't get worried about it either.
So the next question that we have come in is actually someone who's close to my heart, who I've never met, and I don't know who they are, but they have a very similar problem to me, which is they are visually impaired. And they state that it's always been very difficult to parse Dwarf Fortress in its current state, as lots of colors and things blend together. So graphics are a welcome addition. But the question is, are there any other accessibility options like text to speech or audio cues or anything else that you've thought of as far as implementations for the Steam version of Dwarf Fortress?
Yeah, I don't have a lot of experience with this, so the more suggestions I get, the better there. I mean, we're not well equipped to handle anything that would take staff or something like that. But I mean, yeah, we're willing to do quite a bit more. We just don't really know where to begin there. So I mean, yeah. So I guess it's kind of a pathetic answer from me, but that's what I got.
I mean, that's kind of all that you really can do, right? Is just like accept feedback and like see what you can implement when the problems show themselves, right?
Well, it's kind of not sort of, but I think there's a new kind of professional standard emerging, at least in terms of accessibility. It seems almost random, like when like a AAA game comes out and then they're like, wow, this one has like a shitload of accessibility options or whatever, and then another one will come out and there will be like nothing or whatever.
Yeah.
And it just kind of depends on like who they have on staff, right, and who they've been listening to. And I mean, I don't want to make a resources excuse here, but I mean, of course, it holds to some extent, but at the same time, I'm sure there's a lot we could be doing. No, if we can, it makes a lot of sense to do it, and it's the right thing to do. So, yeah.
And kind of sort of attached to that question, but was a different question from another person is the UI or text in the Steam version going to be scalable?
So that's something we've talked about a bit. We've just been using the kind of MS DOS curses text just because it was the one we had laying around, and it makes it easy to just work on getting things arranged and laid out. But on what are we currently working with in general, like 1920 by 1080 or whatever is a normal sounding resolution. The text isn't super tiny, but it's super tiny for some people, and it's pretty small. And if people have like giant, I don't know what monitors get up to these days, like 80 billion times 40 billion or something.
38,000 by 4,000.
Yeah, no, you're going to need a microscope to see it. So, I mean, I don't. Yeah, well, so we're going to. The plan is to not jump back into the true type pond because we drowned last time we did that, but to at least have just some other fonts that scale up that people can use at the kind of bare minimum in terms of what our capabilities there. We don't really have a font person on staff, but I'm sure there's a billion solutions to this problem that don't involve drawing a font.
I mean, my current solution to the problem of things being too small in games is I will downscale the resolution of my main monitor and just just blow everything up to like triple size if stuff gets too small. And I do have to do that for games occasionally. I'll play games at like 1600 by 900 or even smaller, but no,
we can definitely. I mean, the one of the nice things about the way the interface is set up is it's kind of built around the. I mean, nice in more of an esoteric kind of way, but it's built around this sort of square font grid, just because we're trying to support Dwarf Fortress Classic, right, which has the font, and I don't want to write two separate interfaces and support them. So there's kind of this grid hanging around, and if we just make the grid bigger, and we can just have a bigger font in there, and there's a few interface elements that we'll need to learn to play nice with that, but it's certainly like making a 3 times font, and if the monitor can support it, I mean, it's lists, of course, get shorter, but the code handles that. So it's not something, I mean, there's going to be a few issues, obviously, but it's not something I actually anticipate would be a huge drain on us at all to support larger fonts.
So the next question that I have here is a little bit lighter, which is Slaves to Armagh Chapter 2, God of Blood, Dwarf Fortress is a long name. will the Steam version reference this in the main menu, or will it drop the long title for simply Dwarf Fortress?
Well, Slaves of Armagh, God of Blood, Chapter 2, Dwarf Fortress, I think is the order. And yeah, we just had this question in Future of the Fortress as well, and we are considering paring it down because it's very strange and confusing now. I mean, we originally were trying to create a sense of continuity with the 200 fans of the original game that were hanging out on the forum because we didn't want them to feel we were completely abandoning the concept of making a complicated game. And it turns out that we indeed did not abandon the idea there, even if we haven't caught up to Armok on a few axes yet. But it's something that is just kind of weird and confusing, and I'm not 100% partial to the name anymore that we came up with when we were in high school, and yeah. So yeah, no, that could potentially change. It also made our Wikipedia article very strange. If it still says the whole thing, it used to be index based on that. No, it says Dwarf Fortress now. That's nice. It says Dwarf Fortress officially called. Whatever. Yeah, I mean, yeah. It may be an opportunity for a facelift there. I mean, yeah, I don't know. This is kind of a broader question in general about the sort of lore of the universe and things like plump helmets and Gorlax and things. I mean, those like we like Gorlax more than we like the title, for instance. But who knows? Yeah, who knows what's going to happen with stuff like that? Like, I don't care about cave wheat and other things that we just kind of threw in there: floor fungus, cave wheat, cave moss. Just didn't care because we weren't really into world building, right? We were into like world generating.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I mean, we're not like predicting a whole list of casualties, but certainly the myth magic stuff is going to put some things on the chopping block probably if we can do a better job just making stuff.
I'm really excited about Myths and Magic, which is long ways off still.
Yeah.
So the next kind of question we have here is, we've seen a lot of UI and stuff for Fortress mode so far. And this person is asking if or what kind of improvements you guys have been thinking about for adventure mode alongside of Legends mode.
Yeah, so we haven't dived into adventure mode yet. There's the kind of big ticket questions there are like, how do you do a roguelike these days? We've got graphical roguelikes like Dungeon Mans and Caves of Cud and Tales. I don't know how to say Tales of, it's Majal or whatever.
Majal.
Yeah, is that how you say it? Yeah, it's a Dark Gods game, and things like that have approaches to I mean, even like Dungeons of Dreadmore or whatever, have approaches to what do you do with a graphical roguelike. There's and then there's the traditional people that'll want the alphabet in the inventory and stuff like that or whatever, right? And so we'll need to plot through an approach on that. Like, are we going to get rid of action first? There's kind of a move against like eat and drink and drop and that, or quaff or whatever, and just having a clickable inventory that you can pop up, the action that you do the item or whatever that makes so you don't have to think about which item. Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of reasons to go over to something like that, but we haven't made final decisions on that stuff. And about movement, like what keys you use, and you can't have the number pad anymore, right? The number pad is being abolished.
Makes me sad.
So Yeah, I mean, I have trouble getting a computer with a number pad now, so it's annoying, but yeah, we have to deal with it, and I don't know if that just means adventures. I mean, how do you put adventure mode over in Wazid land when you need to move diagonally, right? I don't know if what people have done with that, so I've just got to go back and look at the existing games and see how they dealt with diagonal movement. If everyone just uses Q and E and Z and C or something like a pretend number pad that's basically in the Wazid area but doesn't use the WASD, it uses X instead or something. I don't know. Maybe S and X both go down or something. I mean, I don't know. It's something I just need to see how people solve those problems.
From what I've seen, it seems to be kind of a combination of like mouse clicking and just the numpad. Like Cogmind has a combination of the two. A little game I was playing recently called Lost Flame has a combination of the two. Jupiter Hell just got rid of the diagonal movement and just went with the up, down, left, right. And I've seen kind of a bit of both.
Yeah, I get. Yeah, man. Yeah, no diagonal movement makes my elbows hurt, but yeah, well, we'll see. But yeah, no, I mean, if people that don't have numpads are forced to use the mouse, I guess they can always rebind or whatever, or we can have a set of bindings set up. But then, of course, you lose 9 keys, which kind of guides you to going to the kind of inventory led approach. To not have all those extra keys for drop and equip or eat or whatever these keys do. Z is our status screen, I think. Or well, anyway. Yeah. So there's things to figure out there, but I'm sure we'll come to something that's kind of okay, even if it's not possible to satisfy everybody on this one. And for Legends mode, the main innovation we would like to add is hyperlinks, because navigating Legends mode is very, very unfriendly right now. If you're interested in reading up on somebody, you should be able to click on them and read up on them instead of having to memorize their name and then type it into the filter and hope that you remembered it. And it would be nice just to be able to do that. Just kind of like browsing a web page or something. And then I don't know if we'll have a back button or something like that, right? Just be able to surf the legends.
So the next one I have is a question about sound and audio. I know that a very popular DF Hack plugin adds sounds to the game for various events, and as well as a full fan-made soundtrack. So what are kind of the plans for audio?
Yeah, audio for us was mainly a price issue or whatever, so we didn't add a lot of stuff there. It's kind of something that we're expecting will open up more after the first release. But you should be able to link sounds to any of the announcements, and beyond that, I mean, obviously, it could be doing things like if there's a dwarf working in a workshop near to where your camera is, it could make workshop noises or something like that. That stuff would be something that certainly the engine will be capable of handling. The sound library we use is capable of handling stuff like that quite easily. But we just don't have the resources to get heavy into that, and it's kind of difficult to source and reliably use free sounds and stuff. So yeah, we're gonna be a little late to the party on that one, I think.
Okay, I lost my place in my document for a second here. So
it's too long.
Yeah. The intro is kind of a wonderful bit of ASCII art. I love the intro to Dwarf Fortress. Is that going to be getting an overhaul, or is it going to remain as is?
Yeah, I don't know. In the like obviously in the classic version we can just play it, and we have the capability to just play it in the graphical version as well. I'm just afraid people get a heart attack and think that they bought the wrong version or something like that. But there may be a way we can keep it. I mean, the title screen is going to be new. just because we might as well add some real buttons and so forth to the title screen. But what happens before that? Like right now, it just shows the videos in the current version that I'm testing out. And I mean, maybe if we put a nice frame around them or something, because I mean, at most resolutions people operate at, they'll be kind of just a lot of black space on the screen or whatever. So yeah, just something to make people feel like that they shouldn't just go and like make sure they didn't set their experimental branch settings on Steam to download the classic version or whatever.
Yeah,
Maybe necessary. But yeah. I mean, it's kind of decisions that'll be made, I think, more in the run up to the release, because it's not too hard to adjust what we're thinking there. But those are the only things I'm worried about with it. Of course, I like the intro as well.
of course, it could also just be an option if you do redo it, so you could have classic intro and modern intro in the same branch if somebody wants that, or like have it attached at the end of the credits or something. Who knows?
Yeah.
So the next one I've got here is potentially a big one or a very small one, which is, have you encountered any major obstacles so far in the process of making the Steam version?
Well, I think I mean, there's mainly just, I mean, and this is, well, my head is flooding right now just because we're in 2020. I'm like, well, yeah, but that's
the forest fires.
I'm trying to tease all of that stuff out. Oh, back in the actual land of stuff. Like, right now there are some rendering things that would be nice to have worked out, but they right now I'm still using kind of the older SDL stuff, and have just been very scrupulous with my kind of partial print and refresh stuff, so it doesn't slow down or grind the processor, but it limits some of my options, what I can do. Like, it'd be harder to make dwarves slide when they move and things like that, although even that would still be possible. But like just switching over to a different engine would free that up a bit, but it's also something that I'm not something that I can reliably do, especially wanting to get to a release without a huge unpredictable element. So it's been there have been some headaches that have come out of that, but so far it's working, which is good. And any other obstacles? Nah. I mean, it's a long project. There's a lot of stuff to do. Haven't started the military screen yet, so we'll get back to you on that one. We're plugging along.
So this is kind of a very specific Steam feature, but have you looked into any optimizations to make the game playable via Steam Link, which allows games to be played on phones, tablets, and other devices that are very low powered from your home PC?
I've never heard of it, so no, but
that's fair.
I don't know what I don't know. I just don't know what that would entail, if that's something about the resolution or what. I just don't know enough.
Yeah, it has an app, so you can like download the app on smart TVs and other things. They did sell a device for it once, which did so poorly that I think they sold them for $1 for a while. Yeah. It's a neat thing, but kind of fell over. Dwarf Fortress has a rather large modding community, and have you looked at the Steam Workshop functionality at all yet?
Not yet. Not yet. That's like it's one of those things where it makes sense to start after you've done some of the main game. Yeah. there's so much to do, but that's one of the things that we're going to do. I don't know what that entails. I still don't know like how easy it is to kind of plug and play the Steam side of that. I mean, I've been happy with like the upload process and to get like new branches going on Steam and stuff like that. So I'm optimistic that that their side of stuff will be pretty easy to use, and hopefully that's how it turns out.
So this is an interesting one that I got a lot. And it's one that kind of shocked me because I didn't realize this was something that people hadn't noticed before. There's a lot of people asking why there is a moon in the UI, which is perplexing to me because apparently a lot of people didn't realize that there's a moon in the UI.
Oh yeah. No, it's very small in the classic version, right? It's just up in the corner, and it's just one of the glyphs up there. But yeah, anybody who's played Dwarf Fortress for a year or two of gameplay will realize why there's a prominent moon in the UI.
It's like when your game starts lagging and you're like, what's going on? And then you look at Legends a few days later and realize that there was a were creature breaking out in your city.
Yeah. It's like, just go look at your hospital to figure out why there's a moon AI. Yeah. So yeah, no, it's quite prominent now, and it is a little weird, especially because so we're thinking of throwing in some weather stuff, or because like the whole announcements. Like if we don't have the announcement ticker at the bottom and we go with these announcement icons we've got, then there's certain announcements like it has stopped raining that you don't want to have pop up as an icon and then have to dismiss, right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I care. Yeah. So why not just incorporate that into the moon icon, or around the moon icon, or however that ends up looking. And then it'll just be a nice kind of like, here's the whole situation thing. But yeah. No, it's the moon icon is just a warning. That's all it is.
It's like an ominous tell of the future. Now, this next one is kind of a question about other races in the game. Is it possible or planned in the future to have races that have been integrated into your faction migrate to your fortress alongside of migrant waves? Is this something that you've looked into?
Well, it's something that, I mean, the problem is the clothing issue, right? I mean, we wanted to keep, for now anyway, the kind of humans and elves and things opt in, because otherwise their clothes are going to rot off their body, and you need to be able to make large or skinny clothes for them. And having like humans suddenly be half of your fortress is something that we didn't feel the kind of workshop flow and UI or whatever was up for. And it just kind of be annoying. And in the graphical version, that is compounded by the fact that they all just kind of be naked humans running around. But at the same time, I mean, are we really going to take this opportunity to improve the workshop interface to the point where that wouldn't be an issue? I don't think we can make it quite that far in the first pass here. That's really going to make large clothing just sort of a seamless thing. But yeah, we'll see. But that is the issue, and that's the only issue, which is strange. But that's it.
So this next question is about size of creatures, and they say, we understand that multi-tile creatures are a long-off feature, but will graphics for the Steam version of Dwarf Fortress display all creatures as the same size, fitting within a tile, or will the graphics show creatures relative to the sizes and only take up one tile?
Yeah. So no, we do have some oversized display of creatures. I mean, for a variety of reasons, they don't get too big. Like we can't have a whale that's 20 tiles long or whatever, because it obscures too much of the play area, and also interacts badly with those printing optimizations I was talking about. But we have 3x2 creatures as the size they get, which is a hefty creature, right? I mean, it's obviously bigger than the dwarf that is being killed by it. and it looks good. I think the big old 3x2 creatures running around, and they still occupy one tile.
That's awesome to me because I imagine that kind of as like, in D&D when you have different miniatures, and even like, the dragon is maybe only like a centimeter taller than your soldier miniature, but you still kind of get the idea that it's big.
Yeah, I remember the first time I remember encountering that is like probably in like Pool of Radiance or something when I was doing playing the old SSI games, and the dragons would be 2x2, or the troll would be too tall or whatever. And yeah, it's a significant difference. What are you howling about? You're causing trouble in the home again.
The like mandatory Scamps interlude.
Yeah, it's nothing but trouble. He's sitting on his own laptop now. Use this trick that came out of the TikTok universe. I guess I get referred there from time to time, and setting up a little. I have a little box, like a little cardboard, or not that little, but a big kind of cardboard banker's box type thing, with an old broken laptop sitting on it that I keep open. And Scamps, that's his laptop now, and he interferes with my work a lot less. It actually works. He just has his own computer. Who has his own computer?
That's amazing.
Yeah, no, he's sitting on it right now. He's like, I'm typing with my bottom. Yes, you are.
How to keep a cat off your keyboard? Give the cat a keyboard.
Yeah. Yeah. So and normally I don't look up like life hacks and things, and that came up though, and here we are. My life is totally hacked now.
So
we're doing this.
The next question I have on the list is, are there any plans for smooth scrolling or movement animations? How entangled is the rendering with the rest of the code? Is this something that's possible? And then they also tag on, will the graphical version reduce performance?
Yeah, so like I was saying with I just kind of mentioned that before,
Yeah.
that there are complications to doing smooth movement that would lead to a lot more kind of tile refreshes, which is not normally something you have to think about, but we have to think about still. And hopefully we can loose that shackle at some point, but that's not how it is now. So I don't expect it. It's possible, but I don't expect it. At the same time, the graphical rendering doesn't seem to impact performance at all. It's still running on another thread, and it runs at I think the graphical refresh cap is set at 50 frames per second in the classic version, and that's what we get most of the time. So it seems fine. I mean, because most of the time it's not printing anything. It's just page flipping what's already on the screen, and if like a dwarf walks through there, it just has to update a few tiles. So it's fast.
So next up on the list, I have, will the DF Classics UI change at all? Or is it going to kind of stay as it currently sits? And will we be able to choose to play with the classic UX with the new graphics?
It's going to change, and I don't think you're going to be able to play with. I mean, it just doesn't work, right? The old interface with the panes with the key strokes and things. It's not going to be there. That's not what we're doing with the graphical release. And the classic one is going to be updated to use the new stuff. I mean, you still have key presses. It's not like we're getting rid of that.
Mm-hmm.
But the you'll be able to use the mouse everywhere in classic, drag out zones and repaint your stockpiles and that kind of thing. We haven't addressed the issue of like, how are we displaying scroll bars in classic, and how are we displaying a few of the buttons and stuff. We'll just have to deal with that. But yeah, no, it's going to be so classic is kind of an odd name for it because it's like half classic, right? It's like, but it's still
classic.
Yeah, it's still ASCII, right? But it isn't really the legacy version, right? It's not like that. But I can't keep that many UIs updated.
Yep. Now this is kind of a similar topic, but how hard do you think, or what kind of challenges are you expecting while developing both the Steam and classic versions?
So this is, I mean, is this talking about like after the release, you
Yes.
think, or yeah. I mean, it's not because of the way that I've set up the grids. Once we do tackle those simple issues like scroll bar display and so forth, I don't anticipate big problems here or really having to think about it very often. So that's good. It's like I don't think it'll be a huge issue. I mean, the main thing would probably be like if when we're doing like the big army rewrite or the magic stuff, like doing the graphics and also start kind of coming up with we're still going to have to come up with ASCII representations of like magical effects and things like that. And that's something I've been doing for X number of years. So I don't anticipate that'll be much of a problem, and it's fast. And that was the whole point originally, was that it's fast to do that. So yeah, I don't expect a huge issue here.
So I'm hoping this is going to be a fun one, but welcome back, Scamps.
Yes.
If the Steam release sells an absolutely astronomical amount, would you and Zach consider venturing out for a different concept, hiring new people, working on another game, expanding the team, that sort of stuff?
I mean, we work on other games all the time. That's just part of kind of self-care or whatever, right? But would we try and tune any of those up? Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot. I mean, time is only somewhat made available by that kind of thing, but I mean, we still spend a lot of time on Dwarf Fortress, no matter how it works. I'm still not sure how to add a programmer. I don't know how to do that. And so yeah, I don't quite know though, because the things I've mentioned are more like we mentioned the sound, for instance,
Mhm.
right? Stuff like that suddenly becomes much more possible um, with the right with resources. And stuff like the code, like we had been considering doing like partial code releases, stuff like releasing the world gen code and stuff like that. Doing the entire open source thing is not possible for silly reasons, but the like the people cloning it and putting old versions up on storefronts and stuff just kind of makes it hard to work. But there are some possibilities there, and also if we're not completely paranoid anymore about stuff like that. Stuff like localization becomes slightly more possible. It's still a very tricky problem, even if you've got people kind of sitting there working with you. But if I can get over the issue of like how do I get slowed down too much when I have to do procedural sentence generation, stuff like that, by how the support would have to work there, what the workflow would be to get it into other languages and stuff. And so those are the kind of things we've been kind of thinking about. And I'm sure there's a bunch of other stuff because of course that kind of thing makes stuff possible. Uh, but yeah, I don't know.
And kind of the last Steam related question I have is, well, from me specifically. Um,
No.
has there been like we've had like little teasers and spikes of music and various things that you guys have released, and like the autumn update had some music in the background. The original trailer had some music in the background. Will there be a full Steam soundtrack, and can I buy it on vinyl?
Uh, the first question, my understanding here is yes, that will be made available. is my understanding. I may have just forgotten the conversation with Tanya because it would have been like a year ago. But that's my understanding. Vinyl, I have no idea how that works. If Steam does that or not, I don't know if they have. Do they have some kind of like Steam vinyl service or something like that?
I don't think so, but they should. There's a couple independent labels that pick up game soundtracks and publish them on vinyl. I have this problematic obsession with buying game soundtracks on vinyl. So it's
Yeah, I mean, I certainly I don't have an issue with it if that's something that happens, and I'm sure yeah, it's like the people that are involved with the music will be happy for people to listen to their records, um,
so
their
now
actual records.
I now have a few more just kind of general questions. Are there plans for natural disasters at all? Far flung future. This is one I get a lot.
Yeah, no, it's part of the problem we've had is kind of this the inability of the map to respond to changes. So we haven't gotten like big forest fires. Even though, I mean, you can get forest fires within your fort, right? I mean, if you arrange for them in the proper way.
And
but
if you make big mistakes and abuse a bug,
yeah, yeah, then the things will burn down. But the and we don't have earthquakes, which is something that we should have. I mean, I was a California boy. Went through Loma Prieta and North Ridge myself, and like we should have earthquakes. I'm also a Washington boy, so we should have volcanoes. And the it's I mean, so we think about it a lot, right? I mean, you can't like visit Mount St. Helens and then not think about volcanoes for the rest of your life. So it's something that we just spend, and of course, Dwarf Fortress has volcanoes, and it even has a little eruption thingy where it makes the lava level rise or whatever. But it's not like a proper hurricane or a proper tornado or the Sim City territory stuff. And so we were hoping to kind of set more of the groundwork for that with a map rewrite. This ability to change places and to have forests leveled. Lots of ways to get rid of a forest, apparently.
Yeah, the elves just don't like nature, which is strange because they love nature.
Yeah, no, they have to. Yeah, no, maybe they. Yeah, no, the elves should get the firebug. It's like to replenish the sequoias or whatever. Um, just torch your fortress from time to time.
The next question I have here is: will dwarves one day ever be more responsible for their artifacts? Especially if they claim them in the name of a family member or as an heirloom, because they just kind of leave them around right now.
Yeah, I mean, we wanted to. That kind of got thrown in with this whole kind of changes to how artifacts were handled, and then other stuff got thrown in with the villain release and never reached a kind of coherent state where they didn't just get treated like community property that you're supposed to hide in a vault to avoid various thefts and things. There was this, it was just kind of like there was this old code sitting around about artifact possession and people running and grabbing them and so forth that kind of never got reinvigorated. So when we put in that heirloom thing, it ended up being like an afterthought and not fully fleshed out. So yeah, I mean, hopefully that'll be improved at some point.
So I have a few questions here from the YouTube tutorial extraordinaire Salfor Sal. And she asks, all of her dwarves are blissful, remembering sleeping in a bedroom like a personal palace, but none of them having any personality changes relating to it after many years. Are there only certain categories of memory that can be promoted to core memory, regardless of strength of the emotion?
Yeah, that's a little. Yeah, this is definitely something I'd like to look up because that's probably true, especially if it hasn't happened. And I mean, it's important to wonder why rain would be in the category of ones that can be promoted, but sleep thoughts aren't. It could be that I just had a very bad sense of which ones should have been put in the initial list. But yeah, no, I mean, if the experimentation is bearing it out, then I would, without being able to look at the code right now, I would definitely agree that there's probably an exclusion list that was based on just thinking that a thought was too prosaic, which again raises the rain question. So I'm not sure if the patch to that is not to just deal with the rain question, which is obviously something we were going to do before the Steam release anyway. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I still have mixed feelings about it because people do have kind of these touchstone memories based on the smallest things sometimes.
I have a fort that I'm trying to keep alive. Like me personally, I have a fort that I'm trying to keep alive for 1,000 years. I've seen some really weird things with memories, like dwarves getting completely overthrown by stresses of their tragic lives and like running in circles, depressed, constantly doing nothing, throwing their clothes everywhere, and then somebody like comes along and punches them in the head, and then they're fine the next day. Like I've seen some strange things.
That's odd. Yeah, that's for sure. Especially if they were in a permanent like because you get the non-permanent versions repeatedly happening and then the permanent one happens.
Yeah, I haven't had anybody
And,
snap back from the permanent one, but the non.
okay, that's good because I didn't want to hear about that if that was happening because I'm like, oh, there's some memory problem or the mood variable is getting overwritten or something. But yeah, no, it's good. What are you doing? This is a ridiculous animal. He's sitting like a human on his computer. What are you doing? You just look ridiculous.
Flopping backwards. You just need to
Yeah.
pass him a beverage.
Yes, yeah. You know, we could plant a mug on his belly right now and it would stay there.
Always wanted a cat as a coaster.
It's just ridiculous. Ridiculous.
So the next question from Sal's psychology experiments is when migrants arrive, they are believed to have completely empty memory slots, meaning that the first 8 experiences will be retained until overwritten. Even if the first 8 memories are of the same type, such as seeing 8 corpses or 8 fine statues in their way in. Is this accurate?
My understanding, having recently looked at it for a future of the fortress thing, and I could be wrong about the short term ones because the short term and the long term ones and the core ones work differently. But I think it's all category based no matter what, so that they're not going to get eight memories that are of the same type. I mean, maybe we should go over to like a Disco Elysium thing where you can see their memory inventory or something instead of having it hidden. But
we need to play that. That's the point.
Yeah, no, it's a weird, interesting game. It's definitely worth looking at.
The next one that Sal's got for me, she gave me a whole list, is people report making dwarves watch sentient creatures die will make them immune to seeing corpses. If this is true, what is the mechanism behind that makes them immune?
Now I don't know. So first of all, again, without a code dive to refresh my memory, my only thought is that there's a very, very, very old variable called like hardness, which is kind of their combat experience / PTSD variable. And it increases whenever they see like guts come out and just other stuff, but it includes seeing people die. And once the hardness variable is up to 100%, it kind of divides out the effects so that they really don't experience strong emotions in those situations anymore. It's not a very accurate model, really, because it doesn't have negative effects associated to it. There were a lot of other negative effects in the game, so we thought it kind of worked anyway. But and they'll still be throwing tantrums if they're stressed out and stuff. But it probably is something to do with that. But this is a thing that it did have a visible representation at some point where it says that they just don't care about anything anymore.
I've seen that.
And that comes from that variable. It's not tracked in any within any of the other systems. It's not a personality trait. It's not a memory. It's like the variable. There's two other variables that are kind of similar to it, which is like the wilderness variable about whether or not they mind being rained on, which is just kind of a weird, independent, early variable. And then another early variable is the kind of alcoholic timer or whatever that the dwarves all have.
Until they're a
And
vampire.
yeah, so those three things work together in behind the scenes sometimes, uh, and I mostly had forgotten that they were there, but they still they still sometimes have these effects.
So, and this is the final question from our local dwarven therapist, Sal, which is, I have a dwarf who is thinking almost all positive thoughts, and he's only unhappy when being away from family, friends, and not having a decent meal. He's still stressed. Is there anything that causes stress that doesn't appear in their thoughts?
My initial inclination is that there isn't, but as usual, I could be wrong. So we'll take a stream moment here. So think I don't know if you want to do another question or if you want to talk to the cat. I've turned on the other computer here because I'm getting tired of not being able to look this stuff up, right? And it should be pretty fast. To just do a search for like stress plus equals in the entire code base and see if there's anything other than thought, because I don't think there is, but I wouldn't be surprised if I'm wrong, right? Because there's just a lot of crap. And like we were talking about with the hardness variable or whatever it's called, the PTSD variable, it's just this ancient thing.
Something I've noticed in my really long fort is I have a lot of dwarves that are literally unsavable. Or I had a lot of dwarves because we started the world on year 5 to like minimize lag and other things going forward. And
Yeah.
I have a lot of dwarves in my fort that literally have no family because they existed before time existed. So they have no family. But now we have the exact opposite problem where everybody's entire extended families in the fortress because we have like 4th generation dwarves now. So it's been very fascinating kind of trying to unpack what's going through their little brains, because I see all these moods that I wouldn't see normally, like feels love near a sibling, happiness near a spouse, and stuff like that, which I never saw previously because the whole family isn't in the fort. So
yeah, there's a lot of little modifiers tagging along. The Windows had the bright idea to open 2 copies of Visual Studio, so now the whole computer is having a problem. 3 copies. How many copies of Visual Studio do you want? All right. Hopefully it is no longer causing trouble. Well, it's always something. But we'll hopefully still get that thing looked at. Opening repositories. Okay, yeah, the whole computer's flipping out. I don't know why it lets you open the same solution 2 times.
there's been a couple of times when I've realized about an hour into a stream that I have 3 different instances of OBS running, wondering why and how that happened. And what's even better is one of them's trying to update.
Yeah, I don't know if I was just aggressively double clicking or something, because it's an unusual situation. I was kind of cranked over to the left, pressing the button, and I screwed up or something. But we may very well not see. Maybe I can do the search now. Stress. I don't even know if that's the right variable name. I always have to remind myself of that. But of course, the finding files is now super slow because of its previous issue it was having. Come on. Come on, little computer.
Okay, we all use Windows, or a lot of people use Windows out there, so I think a lot of people can sympathize with any sort of PC-related issues, especially when you can just blame the OS.
Yeah, and that's irritating, but I mean, yeah. So that's my understanding of the thing is that if I can just think of the would it be in this file? Would it be in this file? Um, there it goes. Jeez, that's so irritating. So stress. Okay, here we go. Here's all the times where stress is shifted. Okay, there's the uh, part where the stress gets shifted by all of the distress related to the emotions they're feeling, as we know, and stress gets shifted. It gets recentered. Like stress slowly recenters down to no stress here, and that's it. I mean, there's nothing else. I don't know if the poor dwarf was like weekly experiencing their positive thoughts and had when they had their one bad moment of missing their family, it kind of overwhelmed the rest of the numbers. But yeah, a visible emotion will appears to accompany every stress modifier. Yeah, well, that's life for you. So another unexplained phenomenon.
In my experience, I find some dwarves just are lost, and it can suck sometimes, but it's weirdly accurate to reality.
Yeah, no, you can have just terrible roles on your personality. It's like this person is never happy. This person is vulnerable to stress, and then that dwarf is not in great shape. Which is why we were hoping to do things like letting them talk to people, and we did that to a small extent, right? When they can talk to their priest or yeah, commiserate with people. But of course, if they aren't gregarious or whatever, then they'll have some trouble with that. Um, which means we probably need some dwarves to be proactive in comfort. Not that right now people that are in trouble are forced to kind of seek help themselves, um, and that'll rely on them like picking a dwarf and going out and talking to them to relieve their stress. But we need other dwarves to seek out their stressed out friends and comfort them. Would of course be a huge addition because they don't do that, right? They don't actually care about their friends in that sense, and also not just people with friends, but then there would be dwarves that are altruistic or believe
Yeah.
in the community, and the various values and personality traits would be associated with helping relative strangers, right? So there's a lot to be done there that could deal with this problem of people being doomed by their kind of personality makeup that uh, wouldn't be, feel completely unrealistic at the same time.
Wow. I'm just like imagining now dwarves going and comforting their friends and thinking that that's the most adorable thing I've ever thought of, but also like it's too real.
Yeah. I mean, it's certainly something that's missing and something that's fairly simple and something that should be done.
So
Um,
on the
but
topic
of
of
course, I mean, we're saying this as people that don't like. If a child is left, like a baby is left crawling into the magma, no one gives a shit. So there are other fish. There are other fish to fry here. Uh,
yeah, just throw the baby off the wall. It's fine. It'll survive.
yeah,
They have hard heads.
yeah. No, we need the orphanage and adoption. There's a lot of There's just a whole lot of community stuff we haven't done.
So on the topic of something that is potentially a problem, rather large, and hasn't been implemented, but also could be easy, maybe. Giants are rather large and run around naked. Will they ever have clothing?
So they don't have a culture right now, which is why they don't have clothes. Um, and they would need to get something like that, which is kind of the territory of the sort of entity rewrite thing, which is after the Magic release, and that's a sad day for a giant, but that's cold or something like that. It wants clothes. But that's the best prediction I've got is that it's actually not easy because they need to pull the like what clothes do they wear? What are they made out of? And the game relies on the whole sort of entity culture idea to answer those questions. And so they would I mean, they could do the bandit thing. I mean, they certainly could steal clothes. They probably steal livestock and stuff right now and eat them, and steal bracelets or whatever. So they could be like, I would also steal a very large pair of pants
or like 50 pairs of pants, and you just like imagine them wearing like 50 pairs of pants like a shawl.
Yeah, so the most they do is like steal people's socks in combat and then beat them to death or whatever.
With the sock.
Yeah, just sit there whipping them with the sock because they're like, oh, I'm wielding an item now. I need to use this exclusively. Yeah, it's troubling, but it's tricky. Yeah, that's like should they be making? I mean, they alternatively need to be taught the way the night trolls have their weird habits and they grind insects with their mortar and pestle or whatever, and there are other weird possible habits that they roll up randomly, and maybe the giant would just need like a clothing habit.
I actually learned what a mortar was earlier today.
Yeah, I've never used one. I always use like a blender or whatever, but
I've used them. I just never knew what they were called. So in Dwarf Fortress, we have the means to generate power with water and wind turbines, but currently there's like not much we can use them for. Is there any plans to kind of expand on these systems in the future?
Yeah, so we had like this idea, like the whole moving fortress idea, but that also is kind of in line with changing how traps work and allowing you to kind of build up a kind of actual trap using tiles and so forth. But uh, so there's that, and then there's also like more of the industry should be powerable, right, or something like that. And they aren't currently. Like I'm sure a carpenter could find a use for um, like a saw or something like that moves, and it all fits within the timeline that the Dwarf Fortress has, like those cutoffs or whatever. But like, I mean, Romans were using power tools like water powered saws and stuff like that.
Stuff with pulleys and things.
Yeah, which would all be cool, right? And it's just one of those things that we haven't fit in because it hasn't related to anything else. It's just been so that's why those machines come in slowly, and then there's like an odd minecart release or whatever. And now we're so pinned to a schedule running forward like 5 years, so I'm not sure like when's gonna happen.
Yeah. The next question, we kind of talked about this earlier with like moss and cave wheat and other names that were just kind of thrown in. But why do why do the dwarfs aristocrats have human titles instead of something a little bit more dwarfy? So like rather than barons and counts and dukes, why not something like thanes or mountain lords?
Yeah, I don't know why Thane is dwarfy.
Yeah.
Uh, is it just because it's kind of northern or something?
Sounds, I don't know.
Yeah. No. I mean, certainly they could be more creative, and they're not. Um, and I mean, the most we had before was like the dungeon master,
Mhm.
that would come with just wearing a cloak and would let you tame exotic creatures. Many years ago. Uh, so it's just another failure of imagination in our pursuit to not do any world building, basically.
So I've taken up an hour and 10 minutes of your time now. So I have a few short, small questions to kind of close out the interview. And the first one that I have is, what's your favorite artifact in Dungeon Crawl Stone Soup?
Do I remember an artifact from Dungeon Crawl Stone Soup? A game which I won one time with a very easy thing, like a Hill Orc Fighter or something like that. So I don't know. I don't remember. I don't remember artifacts from Dungeon Crawl Stone Soup. What's an artifact from Dungeon Crawl Stone Soup?
I haven't played enough Dungeon Crawl Stone Soup to know, to be completely frank.
Do you get them? Do you get them like I remember getting all kinds of runes and things or whatever they're called, like at the different themed playable areas, but I don't recall finding anything like an artifact. But I mean, I totally probably did if they're common enough, but I just don't remember.
Just various named unique items, as far as I know.
Yeah, yeah, no, I mean, I totally need to refresh my memory. I mean, I remember some of the ones from NetHack, of course, and I'm sure Adom had some, and I don't know if Rogue had anything like that. But and of course, Angband had a whole fucking giant list of those, but those are easy to remember because they're like pulled from the books.
Gotten
Um,
more random unique items in Tome than anything else, so I just kind of forget everything at this point.
yeah, no, I still have to try Tome. I get frightened off by people saying that there's a lot of one shot random deaths or whatever.
It has a tendency to kill you with things off screen that you can't see.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I was never a big proponent of like the "it breathes, you die." Once that happened in Moria with the ancient multi-hued dragon or whatever,
Yep.
kind of got tired of it. So I haven't jumped into Tome. But I mean, I played all the tomes up until the latest tome. I just haven't played the latest tome. Back when tome was differently titled. I'm not sure we're allowed to say it. We're not allowed to say it. But
Totally not illegal version.
yeah, no, it's totally legit. But yeah, no, I just haven't played latest tome because I didn't want to die, which is a silly reason not to play a roguelike.
I mean, you can turn off dying too in Tome. Just
yeah, no, I should play in explorer mode and stuff. I'm now that I'm old, I just need to.
I need to do that in Caves of Cud at some point because that game's just big.
Yeah, geez, I still have to go back and play it. I got to like midway through where I got to the end of the plot where the plot was like 3 years ago. And the things have expanded. Like I have not played the Tomb of the Eaters expansion or whatever, which they sat there and lovingly crafted for like a year. And also the Future of the Fortress people tell me I should be playing it to see kind of what they did with their interface or whatever.
So the next kind of fun question I have is what games have you been playing that are not working on DF?
Yeah, well, fortunately, whenever I play games, I'm not working on DF. That's nice. Let's see here. I use Steam now because I've got a game upcoming on Steam. So let me see where's my queue of recent games. I tried Evolution of Ages: Settlements and played through it. It's kind of it kind of had that indie feel to it of a game that was lovingly constructed. And then, of course, because I'm having computer issues, Steam has decided to collapse my recent games. How does it do this? Like, how is it that Yeah, okay. What else is in here? I tried to play Final Upgrade. I tried to play Hard Space Shipbreaker, but that crashed on me.
That one made me motion sick.
Yeah, it just didn't. I mean, I'm hopeful it'll. It's early access, right? I mean, early access is you just have to. I played Battle Brothers a bit. I hadn't played that before. It has been out a while, but I tried that. I tried Vagris, which was an interesting, strange kind of post-apocalyptic game. And then we're back in July here. I played Noida last in July, and I think I got to the second ending on that. there's various endings and things. Played a shitload of Factorio in July.
You got further annoyed than I did then.
Yeah, I did. So yeah, did you get to the end of Noida?
I kind of I hit a skill cap with it where I just kind of can't see the projectiles well enough.
Yeah,
So-
yeah. No, it gets to be a nightmare, of course.
I had a lot of fun with it, but it's one of those games I
Yeah.
just kind of accepted I'll never finish it.
Yeah. No, it sucks. Once you get to like the base with even the snow level, people just shoot you all the time. But yeah, no, it's fun. You still get to drop lava on people in the early levels and so forth. So.
And then the last question I have is, so when's it out? When's the Steam release coming out?
Not now. But it's we're making progress. I mean, people can kind of tell how we're doing, right? I mean, here's the zones, and we're working on the stockpiles, but we haven't done building placement yet. So you can judge how many of the screens we have. There's a shitload of screens to go. Yeah, we're making progress. What we need is fewer fires and fewer pandemics.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I guess we want an election, but I don't want to say fewer elections because that's kind of the plan on one side is to have fewer elections. But yes, we need to have. Yes, it has been difficult. I am not immune to what has been going on, and there's a lot.
So, California, stop burning. You're slowing
Yes.
down Dwarf Fortress development.
Yeah. No, we had fires closer because I'm in Washington. We had fires closer here too, and yeah, I had some family in Portland where the air quality was like when it hit 600 or whatever.
We hit like 450 where I'm at.
Yeah, it sucks. Yeah, I wasn't even up to 450, and I still that's not good.
There was
I don't remember where we got like 3 something or something. I think we got to 314 or something. I don't remember.
It was rough. But,
yeah, don't appreciate it at all. So September is kind of a write-off. I mean, there were some good things that happened in September, but hopefully October is better. I'm hoping that October I get to sleep, for instance. That'd be nice. And yeah, then we'll get it done. I just have to. Yeah. My poor little wings need to uncurl, and then I can fly through Dwarf Fortress and do things if I'm not being burned to death.
Just keep plugging away.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. So all I ever been doing. Everything will be fine.
Oh, Clino says it was a great month because his birthday's in September.
That's right. Happy birthday.
Happy belated, Clino. But yeah, no, I think I could speak for everybody in the chat room and everybody listening and all 210 people we have right now. Thank you very much for coming on the stream and chatting with me and answering a few questions from people on Reddit and the rest of the internet. And thank you for making a game that, a lot of us love to pluck away at and play.
Yeah, no, it's and it's going to be an ongoing ride. This is going to be fun. There's going to be some cool crap. It's going to be great.
Looking forward to
it. All right.
And I think I'm going to take us out now. So thank you very much, everybody, for hanging out for the interview. And thanks again, Tarn, for hanging out with me. And I'm going to mute us now. So goodbye, chat room. Ooh, that was a long one. But congratulations, you made it to the end. I hope that you enjoyed the interview. If you want to see more streams that I do, you can find that all over this YouTube channel. There's a ton of it. If you want to see the previous interview, as I mentioned at the beginning, that I did with Tarn back in June, you can find that down in the description. Thank you so much to everybody who listens to what I have to say about Dwarf Fortress and everybody who watches the videos I put up on my channel. This is my livelihood, and it's kind of fascinating to me that people support me, and I've been able to do this for so long. If you want to support Dwarf Fortress, you can do that at patreon.com/bay12games or directly on PayPal, and I vehemently suggest you do because the game is phenomenal. and a fascinating game to just keep replaying and replaying. If you're new to Dwarf Fortress and you want to learn about it, she asked some questions. There's a link down in the description. Check out Southward Sal. She's got tons of great tutorials for Dwarf Fortress. And if you want to support me directly, you can do that on my Patreon or through Twitch or join via YouTube or whatever the heck kids do these days. Thank you for watching this interview. Hopefully I'll be able to do another one of these in the future. And at the end of the day, I'll see you in the next one. Thank you very much for watching.